Hello and welcome to Christmas Eve. Today I wanted to bring you guys this fresh and frosty look for your holiday glam ideas. So we're just going to jump right in with primer. I'm using the Smashbox Vitamin Glow Primer. This is a really nice primer for hydration and to smooth out the skin tone. And I really feel like it helps everything go on smoother. And then using the Physicians Formula Spotlight Primer, just a light illuminating primer. Placing that on the higher points of the face, so on the cheekbones, the forehead, Cupid's bow, and the chin. And this is just going to give a really subtle glow from underneath the foundation. Next, I'm mixing my Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation with the CoverGirl Vitalist Elixir. And I'm really only doing this because I'm between my winter and holiday shade. My vacation and winter shade. And basically you can just use whatever light or a skin-like foundation that you have. Even though this is kind of like a holiday glam, we still want to keep the skin looking fresh and not cakey. So I'm just blending that out with a dense foundation brush, but you can use your fingers or a beauty sponge, whatever you like. And we really want to build up the complexion in very, very light layers because, again, we want to avoid looking too cakey. So just start light. And then with my Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in the shade Honey, I'm just color correcting the areas that I tend to get a bit of darkness. So that's around the mouth, nose, and eyes. And this is a very light textured concealer, so it might look like I'm putting on a lot, but it's not really. And using this shade to correct is going to ensure that I don't have to use as much concealer. So just using a dense concealer brush to buff that out. And just covering those dark circles around the eyes. Then I'm using my Kevyn Aucoin concealer in the shade SX08, and this is just 1 or 2 shades lighter than my skin tone. And I'm literally taking the tiniest amount, and the purpose of this is to just highlight under the eyes, not to conceal too much. But I mean, if you haven't corrected your under eyes, you might want to use a little bit more. It's totally up to you. But again, I'm working in thin layers to make sure that I don't build up the product too much. And I only really need to brighten under the eyes, so I'm not using a lot of concealing here. And just hitting the chin and Cupid's bow for a bit of brightness. And here I'm showing you that I'm just swirling the cap of the product there, and I'm just taking the littlest amount and just buffing that onto the forehead just to add a bit of brightness. And now I'm going to prime the eyelids with my L'Oreal Infallible Concealer. And this is a good one to prime the lids with because it really sets itself well and doesn't move too much. And just blending that out with a sponge. And then with my Too Faced Born This Way loose powder, I'm just taking a small amount again and setting the brow bone and the crease so that when we go in with eyeshadow, it blends easier. And I'm going to do my brows off camera as well. So now just going into my e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette and starting with this neutral brown shade. And I'm taking that on a fluffy brush and just starting to build up the crease color and the outer edge. The outer V of the eye, really. So you want to start off with a small amount of product and blending it through the crease. And I'm literally just barely tickling the skin because the lighter the pressure, the easier the product will blend. And again, it's easier to build up the color than to take away. So I'm blending that through the crease, and I'm also just dragging it out to the corner of my eye because I really want that lifted cat eye shape almost. And just going over the other eye and just continue to build that up lightly. This is just meant to be a light wash of color going up to your brow bones. And now going into my BH Cosmetics Bronze Paradise palette, and I'm taking that bronzier shade, and I'm literally just running that over the last color, and because I decided I wanted just a slightly warmer tone on the eyes. And guys, use whatever products that you have. You don't have to use the exact shades that I'm using. Just use whatever is in your stash and whatever works with your skin tone. And then I'm taking that peachy pinky shade and running that over the other two colors, because we're going to use peachy shades on the face today. So I just want to tie everything together really well. And just dragging that out to the corners towards the eyebrows. And then just taking that slightly deeper brown tone on a smaller, fluffier brush. And now I'm starting to build up the depth of the crease and the outer corners. So we're depositing that not as high as we took the last colors. And again, you're just taking small amounts and slowly buffing that out. And using light layers will just ensure that you can build up the shape that you want and not have to worry about too many mistakes and trying to take away patchy amounts of color. And then with my ColourPop Super Shock Glitter Shadow, this is in the shade A Little Quirky, which is kind of like an antique gold. I'm just using my finger to deposit that color onto the lid. I feel like this is the best way that it goes on, and you can just apply as much as you want till you have the depth that you want. And then next I'm taking the shade Ritz, which is just a slightly frostier gold, and this is what's gonna add that really sort of frosty gold look without it looking kind of like tacky and silvery. And again, just build it up however much you like it. Such a pretty shimmer shade, just very fine glitter. Now I'm going into this deep brown shadow with an angled eyeliner brush, and this is where we are going to start to build up the wing liner. So first I'm just lining the lash line, and then I use the angle of the brush to slightly wing out the wing shape, basically. And I love using brown eyeshadows to build a wing liner because it's a really foolproof way to do it, and you can again use small amounts of product to build up the blueprint of the shape that you want, and then you can go in with more and deepen up the shape once you're happy with it. So just take your time and yeah, have fun with it. Again, just lining the lash line first and then drawing in the wing. And I am giving it a pretty good angle up to the brows because I want that very lifted effect. And now taking a deeper brown shade on a smaller angled brush, and I'm starting to just add more depth to that wing liner. And now that I have that initial shape, it's so much easier for me to draw in a nicer wing. And then just deepening up that outer V a little bit more. And just blending everything together with a fluffy brush. And now I'm taking just a little bit of concealer on a concealer brush. And I love this trick because it helps me to really get a sharp wing without having had to be perfect beforehand. So it's a really good way to clean up your wing liner and your eyeshadow into the shape that you want. Now just curling my lashes before mascara. I'm using the Bobbi Brown Smoky Eye mascara, and you really don't have to go too ham with this because we are going to use false lashes. So I'm just giving it a couple good coats, and then I'm going to put on lashes off camera. But just use any sort of natural looking fluffy lashes. So I'm just using these ones from MAC that I have in my stash. So now that that's on, I'm just smoothing out the creasing underneath the eyes. And I'm adding some of that L'Oreal concealer. And I decided after doing the eye makeup that I needed a little bit more brightness and coverage underneath the eyes. So just a tiny amount, and I'm blending that out with a brush. And this is why using light layers is so good, because you can see what you need later on and add more product if you need. And just concealing the sides of my nose where I tend to get a bit more darkness. And also taking a tiny bit on the forehead to add a bit more highlight. And then just blending everything away with a sponge. Next, I'm taking my MAC Studio Fix powder in the shade NC45, and I'm just using this on a fluffy angled blush brush. And I'm patting the product into the face. I'm not dragging it because we haven't set the face with powder. And patting your bronzer will just ensure that you get that nice blend without it looking patchy. So you just want to bronze up your face really slightly. You don't want it overly bronzy because this is still a winter look, not a summer look. And then I'm taking my Hoola bronzer. You can see how much I love this bronzer. And it's a really perfect neutral shade, and I'm using that to add a bit more depth to the contours of my face. And again, just using light amounts of product so you don't get too harsh contrasts on your face. Don't forget the neck. And I'm contouring underneath the bottom lip and just the tips of my nose a little bit. And now just smoothing out that concealer again before we set it. And I'm taking that same loose powder, just tiny amounts again, because the concealers that I used are pretty self-setting. But just use however much you need until you feel comfortable. And I'm really just setting the areas that I tend to get shiny throughout the day. And because it's winter and I have dry skin, I'm really not using a lot of powder. Now going in with the Revlon Skin Lights highlighter in Daybreak Glimmer. Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this highlighter for like a year, and I only just found it at a store near me. And you can see that it just gives the most beautiful candlelit glow, and I'm using only a small amount, so you can totally build this up if you want. But again, since this is not a summer look, I don't want to add too much shininess and glowiness to the skin. And just taking it on the Cupid's bow and underneath the brows, and also going to brighten up the inner corners of the eyes. And then just taking some of those earlier eyeshadows that we use, I'm just smoking out the outer sort of third of the bottom lids just to give it a bit of depth. Then I'm taking my NYX No Filter powder. This is just kind of like my skin tone shade, and I'm using that to diffuse out any harsh lines from the bronzer. And then with my Wet n Wild blush in Keeping It Peachy, just applying that starting from higher up on the cheekbones and just diffusing it down to the apples of the cheeks. And again, we want a very lifted look for this makeup, so I don't want to start at the apples of my cheeks. And then just running some through the crease to tie in that look together. And now I'm using that NYX powder just to carve out the underneath the cheekbones a little bit more. And this is also just going to set those areas so they last a little bit longer. And this is a really finely milled powder, so you don't have to worry about it looking too powdery or cakey. And then just brushing away the excess product with my powder brush. And now just lining and filling in the lips with my Milani liner in All Natural. This is like the perfect pinky nude, especially for medium skin tones. So just draw in and fill in your lips however you like it. And then just going in with my NYX liner in brown, which is a little bit deeper, and I'm just using this to contour the lips. You don't have to do this, but I really like the way that it adds depth to the final look. So I'm just outlining the lips and blending it in with the other color. And then with my Maybelline lipstick in Beige Babe, which I have used down to the nub, just taking that on a lip brush and just doing a light layer of this to cover the lip liner. And then I'm just using the blush on a fluffy brush and just patting that over the top to tie in all the colors together. And then just deepening up the blush on the face wherever I feel like I need it and adding a little bit more contour. And then I realized that the lips were looking a little bit too pinky, so I just take that NYX face powder that I have and I'm just running that over the top of the lips to lighten it. And that's the end of the look, guys. Put on a cozy sweater and some frosty bling, and you are ready for your holidays. Hope you guys enjoyed this look. If you liked it and you want to see more videos, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday season. Merry Christmas, everybody. See you later.